Welcome to the Real News Network. The United Nations has issued a fresh appeal for a ceasefire in Sri Lanka to stop the fighting between the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam and the government forces of Sri Lanka. There are demonstrations across the world, including the United Kingdom, the United States, and right here in Toronto, where the Tamil diaspora is protesting and also calling for a humanitarian cease so that their family members could be retrieved from the region. Today joining us is Professor R. Charan, who is a professor at the University of Windsor in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Charan was the deputy editor of the Saturday Review, which came out of Jaffna, Sri Lanka in the 80s. He's also a founding member of the free media movement in Sri Lanka. Charan, what are these demonstrations taking place all over major capitals in the world today by the Tamil diaspora?
These demonstrations and protest marches have been going on for some time, and then one of the main reasons for these demonstrations and the massive protest rallies is to simply demand that the government stop the war and end the bloodbath that has been going on ever since the government unilaterally withdrew from the ceasefire agreement with the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. In 2002, the government of Norway mediated a ceasefire and a cessation of hostilities. It was a permanent ceasefire between the government of Sri Lanka and the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. But the new government came into power in 2006, and then with a mandate to abrogate the pact, the ceasefire agreement, and to renew the war in the hope that the only solution possible for the Sri Lankan ethnic conflict is a military solution, and the only way to achieve is by eliminating the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam from Sri Lanka.
So the government of Sri Lanka, with this sort of renewed surge around the world on the war on terror, they almost have been given new legs to stand on.
Yeah, it is correct. It's also a bit ironical, but if you look at the international arena, even in Washington, the notion of war on terrorism is not gaining that kind of credibility and acceptability. But Sri Lankan president and the minister, and the defense secretary, they have been successful in articulating a vision that what has been going on in Sri Lanka is simply a war against terror, and the so-called international community, including the U.S., seem to are buying into that argument, and then that is one of the reasons why, even though the UN has issued a call for immediate ceasefire, even though the government of the United Kingdom has issued a call for ceasefire, including our government, our own government, the government of Canada, they have called for immediate ceasefire, but the government of Sri Lanka has conveniently and comfortably ignored the call.
Are they willing to sacrifice independent state, Tamil nationalist aspirations in order to have a more peaceful situation in the region?
Well, I mean, I do not think so, because this is yet another catastrophe. But the Tamils in Sri Lanka have gone through several catastrophes, and they have not given up the reasonable demand for justice, equality, and self-determination. In fact, I would argue this has never been an ethnic conflict. This has emerged as reasonable demands, fundamental rights, human rights, and minority rights demands from the Tamil population. At some point in the history, in the 1980s, it got labeled into an ethnic conflict, and now it has been relabeled or rebranded as a war against terrorism or by the government. So as long as the fundamental rights and the human rights and the civil and political rights of the Tamil minorities remain unsung, the conflict will go on. So I do not think the Tamil community will give up that just struggle for equality, dignity, and self-determination.
So most people see this as a surge by the government, an unprecedented surge in order to eliminate the LTTE. Is that possible?
I would like to start off by saying one important point why the government of Sri Lanka continues to refuse the call for ceasefire. The main argument seems to be that every time they declare a ceasefire, the liberation tigers of Tamil Eelam regroup and rearm and re-energize themselves and come back to fight for another day. The government of Sri Lanka has amassed enormous amount of arsenal, and they both and they got into all kinds of deals with governments of China, India, Russia, and Iran. And they have also built up a huge army. So the advantage seems to be on the government side simply because of the numbers. So in that sense, surge has worked in terms of capturing more and more territory previously controlled by the LTT. So that does not necessarily mean that the mission has been accomplished. So the war will continue in different forms.
There are times when reality just asserts itself. In spite of the haze created by television news and entertainment, sometimes crisis rips a tear in the fabric of myth and propaganda. Now a profound economic crisis has ripped asunder the American dream itself. Millions of people losing jobs and homes. They lack proper health care and any real sense of security. Since 2001, workers' wages have fallen or remained stagnant, even though worker productivity has risen almost 33%. By 2006, the top 1% of households were receiving 23% of all pre-tax income, more than double what it was in the 1970s. It's the greatest concentration of income since 1928. As unemployment rises, we need to know why this crisis is happening and what we can do to defend ourselves. Why are wages so low? Why is the society so laden with debt? Is it in ordinary Americans' interest to have $1 trillion military budget to project power across the globe? Corporate television news won't ask these questions, let alone try to find answers. Only a truly independent news network can tackle these questions with courage and with ordinary people's interests in mind. We need a news network that's independent of corporations, governments, and political parties. We need the real news. But there won't be a real news network unless we raise substantial funds right away. The current financial crisis has hit our funding hard. Together, we do have the power to turn it around. There are already hundreds of thousands of people watching the real news every month. If everyone pitches in, we can build an internet and cable television network that will change the face of media forever. You can organize house parties, talk to friends at school and at work, send email blasts and spread the word. Distribute this video to everyone you know. Pick up the phone and call a few friends and suggest they visit therealnews.com. Invest just 10 minutes a day to ask friends and colleagues to join the campaign to create a truly independent source of internet and television news. Together, we can build this network. Just 50,000 people at $10 a month gets us to our first level of sustainability. You can help us reach this goal, and when we do, we'll move to television in millions of homes across North America. Help us reach an audience in the millions. Please contribute generously. Spread the word. Let's make the Real News television network a reality.
Your tax-deductible donation makes it possible. Please contribute at therealnews.com.